Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 352nd Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Just before I introduce the teams, I've got a small announcement to make. I'm amazed and really pleased to tell you that this Brotherhood YouTube battle channel has just received over 60,000 views. I've just looked at it, it's 60,121 total views for this channel. Now, bearing in mind Rome Total War is over 14 years old now, I think to get over 60,000 views for such an old game is really good, and I hope you still enjoy the battles as much as you ever did. As you can see, this battle was fought on a custom flat map hosted by Brotherhood member Crypto. And our first teammate is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks. He's called himself Henry V, but it is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks. And just have a quick look at his army. You'll notice that he's got 5 archer units, which is quite a lot to bring on the modern day 31k battlefield, but only 10 infantry. So he's got 5 archers and 10 infantry. Let's have a look at the upgrades on his infantry. If you notice, on his infantry he's got 7 upgrades, so that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So that makes, even though there are only 10 infantry units there, to have those upgrades on makes them quite tough. Plus, if you notice there, he's actually got his infantry general, and he's got an eagle unit as well. So he's got 2 lots of morale going on in his infantry as well. But it'll be interesting to see if 10 infantry can cut it on the modern day battlefield, if you see what I mean. Let's have a look at his cavalry. He usually brings serious cavalry. Yep, and as you can see here, he's got 8 upgrades on his cavalry, so that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack, which makes those Praetorian cavalry, elite cavalry, even more elite with those upgrades. So that's 10 infantry, 5 archers, and 5 cavalry there. Be interesting to see how well that does. Our next teammate is an RTW player, Lee. A lot of you know Lee, very good player, and as you can see, he's bought the Macedon faction. Just to have a quick look at his army build. It's a bit unusual, really, because he's got 19 pike units. Have a quick look at the upgrades. You can see he's got 7 upgrades, so that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. 19 pikemen. Just have a look at the length of those pikes. Remember, this is why Roman generals don't like attacking pike units head on, because their men have to fight all the way down those long pikes to kill the man on the other end. Very long pikes the Macedons have got. And as you can see, he's got a cavalry general with 7 upgrades, which is an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. But have you noticed anything lacking in his army? And you probably have no archers. Now remember, those 120 man units are extremely susceptible to archer damage or missile damage of any sort. So not having archers, I wonder if that would be a problem during the course of the battle. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Earth. A lot of you know Earth, very good player. And just like to draw your attention to his unusual army build here. As you can see, he's got 6 archer units. 6 archer units. That's a lot to bring for the modern day battlefield. And only 8 infantry. Now, 8 infantry on the modern day battlefield is quite a low amount. Let's have a look at his cavalry general there. You can see his cavalry general is fully upgraded. So that's 3 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. It's a Praetorian cavalry unit there, fully upgraded. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, his other cavalry units there are also fully upgraded as well. That unit there has only got 8 upgrades, 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack, but his other cavalry are fully upgraded. So that makes those elite Praetorian cavalry extremely tough, and they can actually be battle-winning troops if used properly. But only 8 infantry. It'd be interesting to see what happens during the course of the battle. And our 4th teammate is myself, a Spartan commander, who has bought his 10 or 11-year-old usual Roman army of 12 infantry and 6 cavalry. You wait to see the other team. This should be a great battle for you to watch. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I just thought I'd show you the positioning of Earth's army here. I remember in this battle he asked if he could swap with me and go on to the left flank. Obviously that's a custom army he's built there for a particular purpose. It'll be interesting to see what that purpose is when he goes on to the left flank. And just to give you a quick look at Lee's formation there, as you can see, he's only got 1 pilot shield unit in front of his main battle line. So that'd be interesting to see how well that does during the course of the battle. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Aurelius, who has bought the Rome Scipio faction. And I see he's got 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. But if we look a little bit closer at his infantry, you'll see that he's got 2 early legionary first cohort Eagle units and his general. So he's got 3 lots of morale bonus going on there within his infantry. So that would be interesting to see how well his army does with that amount of morale bonus there. Unusual to have those 2 type of Eagle units in his army, in an army there. And as you can see, his cavalry has just got 6 upgrades on. So that's gold shield, gold attack. Be interested to see how well that army does with the 2 early legionary cohorts. Okay, their next teammate is Brotherhood member Schemer, or 8 Ball, as a lot of you will know him. And as you can see, he's bought the Rome Scipio faction 2. Just a closer look at his army there, and you'll see that he's got the units at the back of his main battle line there have got 7 upgrades. So that's an experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So those 6 units there have got 7 upgrades on. So that's quite good, keeping them at the back of his main army. And his main army have probably only got gold shield, gold attack on the front units there. His cavalry have just got gold shield, gold shield, gold attack. So he's got 6 cavalry, 14 infantry. Their next teammate is Brotherhood member Gladius. A lot of you know Gladius, very good player. And he's bought the Rome Brutii faction. If you look at his infantry there, I think he's got 12 infantry units. Have a look at the upgrades on his general. He's got 8 upgrades on his general, so that's 2 experienced stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So he's got 12 infantry, 2 archer units, and looks like 6 cavalry. Quick look at the upgrades on his cavalry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he's got 7 upgrades. So he's got an experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry there. So that's a pretty good Brutii army. And their last teammate is the host of this particular map and battle, is Brotherhood member Crypto, who has bought the Rome Scipio faction. Now, it's just an interesting army build here, if you just have a look for newer players to Rome Total War. If you look at his 3 archer units, he's got 3 archer units there. But look at the upgrades and what he's put on those archer units. 9 upgrades. So he's got 3 experienced stripes, gold shield, gold attack on those 3 archer units. So those archers are incredibly serious archers. They've already got long range, but with those upgrades on, that's going to really make them even more serious. And if you look at the rear units of his army, you'll see that he's got 7 upgrades on his infantry. So that's an experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack on his 6 units at the rear of his main formation. Just have a look at his cavalry. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's just got 6 upgrades. That's gold shield, gold attack. So this has got the potential to be a great bonus battle for Friday. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, you can see here why Earth wanted to switch to the left flank there. He's that army of his, I suppose you could call it maybe a skirmish army there. He's moving his archers forward, backed up by those fully upgraded cavalry there. To try and target some of Aurelius's infantry as it's moving forward. Remember, the flanks and the rear of any unit on RTW are extremely susceptible to archer damage, and that's why Earth moved his archers forward there, hoping to target some of Aurelius's units as they're moving. Remember, head on, you won't do a lot of damage to urban cohorts, but the moment they start moving and showing their side and rear to your archers, they will suffer casualties. As I say, Earth's out here with his archers. They're making the most of those 6 archer units, as I say, backed up with those fully upgraded cavalry. Let's just pause the game for a second. Now, can you see Aurelius here moving his cavalry across? Now, if he hasn't looked carefully at Earth's cavalry upgrades, he may well feel he can charge his cavalry over to try and take those archers out, and maybe even take the SBQ or cavalry out. But if he looks carefully, you will see, as I say, those cavalry units are all fully upgraded. So a general who doesn't maybe check up on the other cavalry units upgrades there may well attack with his cavalry, hoping that he may get a chance to beat them. But fully upgraded cavalry against even cavalry with a stripe, gold shield, gold attack, those fully upgraded cavalry should win the contest. So you notice here Aurelius in a flank in action here. I noticed that 8 Balls brought his cavalry out there as well. So there's I think there's 12 units of enemy cavalry there facing Earth's cavalry and archers. But notice Earth here is wisely moving back. He's got his infantry there to back his cavalry and archers up there if that cavalry does attack. But if you notice 8 Ball being very aggressive here with his Scipioid cavalry, looking to come forward there. I just wondered if he's had a look at the upgrades on Earth's cavalry there, moving those cavalry so far forward so aggressively there. He may well be, here you are, see him smashing into that archer unit there. Just makes contact with that archer, probably causes some casualties and then pulls his cavalry back. He looks like he wants to be really aggressive with his cavalry there. But I see he's moving his cavalry back now, of course, because Earth's brought his infantry over there to support his cavalry and archers. But I'm just wondering whether Schemer thought that Aurelius might bring his cavalry in there as well. He may well have been thinking that. But as you can see here, Earth is using his army really good on that flank. Okay, at this stage of the battle here, you can see 8-Ball or Schemer there moving his infantry in to try and attack my infantry there. But if you notice that Lee is moving his Macedon pikemen over as well. So both Lee and myself here are facing Schemer's Scipii army there. Let's just pause the game for a second. Over here on the left flank, as I said, this is Earth's great bait here. The archers are his bait, hopefully to attract enemy cavalry that would come over there, and then he would attack them with his fully upgraded cavalry. So those archers, although they do a lot of damage to the enemy, are also bait to bring enemy cavalry over there, so that Earth can then use his fully upgraded cavalry on the enemy cavalry to hopefully take them out. As I said here, you can see that Schemer has turned his army on an angle there to attack my army. But as notice there, Lee's moved his pikemen across. But Lee has to be very careful of that Brutio army there, because there's a lot of pilots can be thrown into his units. And as we've said in many battle videos before, the big 120-man pike units are extremely susceptible to any kind of missile fire. But you can see Schemer's got his cavalry lined up in wedge formation there. Looks like he's ready to attack. But over here on the left flank, can you see that Aurelius here has decided to attack those archers? He's got fed up with the casualties he's been taking from those archers, which is just what Earth wanted. And now if you notice, Earth is bringing his fully upgraded Praetorian cavalry over here to attack Aurelius's cavalry, and bang, as that SBQR cavalry hits. Now remember that the Scipii cavalry is a long way from its general. Okay, it's just been hit by all those cavalry units, and that's why those Scipii cavalry units have just been routed there by that hit of those fully upgraded cavalry. Okay, now remember here that those SBQR cavalry have got their general with them, giving them morale bonus. But because Aurelius's cavalry was so far away from his general, he's getting no morale bonus at all. And so when they got hit by that fully upgraded cavalry, that's why most of his units just routed there. See how far away his general is, so there's no general morale bonus coming to those Scipii cavalry. That's why they routed so quick. Plus, Earth has got his archers. Cleverly, he's got his archers shooting at that cavalry as well. So there you go. Just to say, unwary generals there. If you charge against cavalry, you haven't checked the upgrades on, that's what can happen. Right, can you see Earth is moving his 8 infantry over. Remember, he's outnumbered there, 14 infantry by Aurelius's against his 8. So he wants to move over closer to his allies there for a bit of support if he needs to. Let's say Aurelius has spotted that that Earth's only got 8 infantry left and is moving his infantry forward to try and engage that to make the most of his numbers. Okay, meanwhile over on our right flank you can see the enemy are being extremely aggressive. See Crypto's cavalry charging in, and bang! And then Gladius's green Brutio cavalry coming in as well. They're looking to take out Steve's cavalry here on our right flank with those double team of enemy cavalry there. And if they do that and they charge into the flank of Steve's engaged infantry, there could be problems there. And you can see here Crypto charging forward into Steve's infantry. Remember, Steve only had 10 infantry, and most of the other enemy team have got more infantry than him. And over here on our left flank, as I said, you can see that Earth has moved his infantry closer to us here, and he'll be ready to attack that enemy Scipii team if he needs to. Right, over here on our right flank you can see a lot of Steve's cavalry has now been routed by Crypto's Scipii cavalry. Nice aggressive hit there by both Gladius and Crypto's cavalry there on our right flank. Now the only thing Steve can do now is move his infantry over to try and support his cavalry here on the right flank. But that of course will weaken his infantry facing Crypto's infantry, and as I said, Steve only had 10 infantry units, so he moves infantry away. He's weakened his main army in front of Crypto's army there straight away. Right, you see I'm moving my SBQR cavalry over there to help my teammate on the right flank. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. Now you can see a lot of Lee's Macedon units are starting to rout. Now they're probably routing because of the casualties they've taken from pilot hits. Remember, a Macedon morale is not very good, and if they start taking casualties they will rout. Schemer's just charged his cavalry into my forward units there. If you notice, a lot of my units have suffered pilot damage as well. And maybe, meanwhile, Earth's units here are being flanked by Aurelius's Scipii infantry there coming round his left flank. But also, can you see that Earth's got his archers out there shooting into the rear and flank of moving infantry? Plus, he's got his fully upgraded cavalry out there in rear as well. So he's going to be causing casualties to Aurelius's infantry as they try and flank him. But say, meanwhile, over here, I'm moving my infantry over from the left flank over to the right to try and help Steve. And which way should I go? I can see Schemers charge his cavalry into my infantry, but I'm decided that really the deciding factor might be over here on the right flank. So I'm charging my cavalry over here to try and help Steve out as much as I can. Bang! As my cavalry makes contact with Crypto's Scipii cavalry there. I notice that Crypto's pulling his cavalry back rather than engaging here. He's pulling his cavalry back there, which may be a wise move, but then he's got Gladius's cavalry there to support him as well if he decided to make a fight of it. But I see Gladius's cavalry was charging over towards the rear there, but he's now changed direction and may well come back. Okay, so I've got my cavalry here. I can see Steve's under a heck of a lot of pressure there against Crypto's army. Meanwhile, over here you can see that Lee is moving his pikemen out to face the danger of the attack. But if you notice, Schemer or 8-Ball here is attacking my SPQR troops with his Scipii troops in a very aggressive manner there, with his cavalry keeps smashing into them. But meanwhile here you can see Aurelius is trying to attack Earth's infantry. But as I say, Earth's got a lot of archers. Just pause the game for a second there. Say, Earth's got his fully upgraded cavalry in behind Aurelius, plus his well upgraded archers. Remember, his 6 units there shooting arrows into the rear of Aurelius's infantry. Really frustrating and angry there. He's knocked that unit down to 30 men left, and this will really be frustrating Aurelius, losing men like that from the archer fire shooting them into the rear there. You can see some of Earth's units starting to rout here under Aurelius's attack, but if you notice that Earth's moving his infantry further over towards his allies there for a bit of support. But as you can see, a lot of my infantry have been pilot depleted, where the enemy have caused so many casualties with their pilots. But poor Steve here is under a lot of pressure. Remember, he only had 10 infantry, and remember, Crypto's there pushing forward with his infantry as well. So I've got my cavalry ready, but you can see a lot of the enemy cavalry are in behind us. So it'd be interesting to see what I'm going to do with my cavalry, whether I'm going to counterattack into the enemy team that's attacking me, or whether I'm going to help Steve on the right flank here. As we move over across the battlefield, as you can see here, a lot of Schemer's cavalry's moved over to the right there, probably looking to take out as many of Earth's infantry as he can. But if you notice, remember, we saw Earth's cavalry and archers in behind Aurelius's infantry, and you notice that Earth is attacking one of Aurelius's eagle units and has routed it. As you can see here, Schemer's just charging his cavalry in. But meanwhile, over on our right flank here, you can see I've decided I'm going to charge my cavalry and try and help Steve out, try and take a bit of pressure off of Steve's cavalry and infantry, and bang! As my cavalry charges in there. 6 good cavalry units smashing into Crypto's engaged infantry. They're trying to do as much damage as I can to try and help Steve over here on the right flank. But you can see the enemy cavalry have now rallied and are charging in, looking to probably hit my cavalry there. So my 6 cavalry now looks like they're going to be up against 10 enemy cavalry. Plus, it wouldn't surprise me if Crypto pushed his infantry forward there to come into the rear of my engaged cavalry as well. Okay, so you can see my SPQR cavalry there fighting enemy green and enemy blue cavalry, plus enemy Scipii infantry coming in behind me as well. So as you can see here, my cavalry is being sandwiched between enemy cavalry and enemy infantry. So my guess is that my cavalry is not going to hold very long, but I wanted to help Steve out as much as I can on our right flank, because it looks to me like our right flank is in danger of being broken. Okay, meanwhile, Lee here has moved his infantry pike units out there, ready to engage enemy Brutii infantry. I can see Gladius looking to that, but look at the dead Macedon pikemen here, and that's all killed by pilot units there by the looks of it. Not even engaged. Right, you can see here Schemer's still got that angle on my infantry trying to attack. But as you can see here, Earth is making the most of his fully upgraded cavalry there, charging in, taking out enemy cavalry, smashing into the rear of engaged enemy troops. So he's making the most of his fully upgraded cavalry and his archer units there, still shooting arrows into the rear of enemy troops. And boy, is that frustrating when you're being killed from the rear by enemy archers. Okay, meanwhile, over on our right flank, as I said, this was in danger of breaking. My cavalry is being sandwiched there between enemy infantry and enemy cavalry. I can't see them holding much longer. As you can see, my SBQR cavalry is beginning to break now on our right flank. As I say, our right flank is in danger, really in danger there of breaking. Steve's still got his infantry fighting there, but not a lot of units left. You can see most of my cavalry has now been routed. Meanwhile, the enemy Brutii general is sending reinforcements over to the right flank to really try and finish us off there. Not looking very good there. You can see Lee is making like a bit of a defensive formation there against the enemy Brutii troops, but he's also helping me try to attack the enemy Scipio troops that are attacking my troops. As you can see, Aurelius here has moved infantry in behind us, but Aurelius has just lost his general to Earth's cavalry, combination of Earth's cavalry and infantry hit there. So Earth may well have had a small army there, but he's used it extremely well there on the left flank. You can see this unit from Aurelius here getting caught by archers shooting him in the back. That unit's being reduced dramatically there by archer fire. Okay, meanwhile over on our right flank, just pause the game for a second. So just to say, as you can see here, after a ferocious fight, our right flank has now been broken. Okay, so our right flank has now been broken. I lost all my cavalry over there, and Steve's army has now been broken as well. So our right flank's not looking very good, and the victorious enemy troops are looking to come in and probably try and roll us up from right to left. We've got enemy cavalry in behind us as well. And so here you can see Lee can see the danger and is starting to face his Macedon troops right to try and neutralise any attack. But in the meantime here you can see that our combination attack of my infantry and Lee's Macedon pikemen there has started to rout Schema's army, and then you can see Earth very strategically and tactically bringing his infantry and cavalry in behind Schema's infantry, and so Schema's infantry is a hammer and anvil attack there, and his infantry is mostly routed. You can see Aurelius has got his units there. My guess is he's probably looking to bring them in behind us. So you can see most of Schema's infantry has now been taken out in that hammer and anvil attack. Lee and myself being the anvil, and Earth with his cavalry and infantry being the hammer there. So you can see there most of Schema's army now has now been taken out. So we've done quite well there over here on the left. As you can see, there's a lot of enemy troops ready to attack there from the right flank. But we're now chasing the last of Schema's routed infantry and cavalry away from the battle there. There's a general overview of the battle. Remember, we are the SBQR and Macedon. The enemy are the green and the blue. Okay, so the enemy are the green and the blue. We are the purple and Macedon. Right, so let's pause the game for a second. So you can see here, I moved my infantry forward with Earth's cavalry. You can see some enemy cavalry there and a lot of enemy infantry there ready to move in on Lee's Macedon pikemen there. So there's a general overview of the battle as it stands at the moment. Earth has only had a small army. Remember, he only had 8 infantry and those 6 fully upgraded cavalry, and he's been really aggressive with them, making the most of those units that he's got, playing extremely well there with them, as I say, being very aggressive. If you notice here, Lee's starting to form up like a bit of a defensive formation. Some people insist on calling it a noob box, but I don't think that. I just think it's I call it a defensive formation, which is what it is. And sometimes in battles you need to box up, as we call it, and make a defensive formation. And at this stage of the battle, I would think that's a good tactical move for Lee to do. Looking at the enemy, the potential of the enemy troops that we're facing, I think that forming a defensive formation there is a good tactical move. But you can see here, Lee, as I say, formed up a good defensive formation, but Earth now is charging into a couple of Gladius's green Brutii units there. But if you notice here, can you see he's fighting? There's a lot of enemy reinforcements coming over there to take out what's left of his army. Now remember, he's only got a few, just pause the game for a second, he's only got a few infantry units, and they've been battle depleted, but his cavalry he's been using extremely well. But as you can see here, the enemy team are definitely moving reinforcements over with a view to try and take him out. Okay, I've got my army there facing the danger of the Brutii and Scipio units in front of me. But as you can see here, the enemy are deciding to target Earth's remaining troops. Now, quite good tactical move there by Earth by retreating his troops. He's got no chance against those enemy troops, so it's best to pull them back. And hopefully the enemy troops will stop chasing him and he can keep them in the peripherals of the battle, ready to bring them in when we need them. So that's a nice tactical move there by Earth. Been very aggressive up to now, but now we can see the enemy numbers are against him. Right, just pause the game here. As you can see here, I'm thinking about taking my infantry over there to support his units there, but his units are in full retreat and there's a lot of enemy infantry out there, so whether I'll continue forward move in that direction, just have to wait and see. See Crypto throwing a couple of battle depleted units into my army. Wouldn't surprise me if they routed almost on contact. And there you go, those two Scipio units have just routed. They only had a small number of men in each, so they would rout quite quickly. You can see a lot of enemy cavalry out there. Looks like they're trying to finish off the last of Earth's infantry units, and bang, as those cavalry units move in, plus with a combination of infantry as well. So I can see Earth is quite happy to move his cavalry and one infantry unit further and further back, so there's no need for me to run forward there. There's not really anything to support there for me. Right, just going to pause the game here, ask you a tactical strategic question. As you can see here, Lee's formed up a really good defensive formation here. Now what would you do if you had my army? What do you think you would do? Do you think you would move your army, if you were in charge of my army there, would you move those units inside that defensive formation there? Do you think that would be a good move? Move them in there and just you know, kind of move them around the defensive formation there to kind of strengthen that formation? Is that what you think you would do? You think that would be a good tactical move to do that? You can see a lot of enemy troops, a heck of a lot of enemy troops out there, so maybe that might be the best thing to do. A good defensive formation there with my SBQR troops in the middle there to support Lee's pikemen. Do you think that's a good idea? Let's see what happens here. If you notice, I'm running back towards Lee's formation, so maybe that's what I'm going to do. But no, if you notice there, I'm just forming up on the outskirts of Lee's formation. Okay, now unusual maybe to see someone do this, because obviously maybe the best move is to run into the center of Lee's position there, to try and strengthen his formation. But no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and kind of do an extension to that formation. Okay, so I'm going to keep my troops there, and I'm just going to try and extend Lee's formation there by turning units inwards to face the enemy, if you see what I mean. You see how I turn them inwards there to face the enemy there if they charge in, and I've butted my troops right up against Lee's pikemen there. Okay, so let's pause the game for a second. So as you can see there, I've kind of formed an extension of Lee's formation there. I've tucked in units close up to his pikemen there, so there's no gap between us, and I've kind of, like as I say, extended his formation there with my SBQR troops on the outside. Now you can see that the enemy Scipii are straight away attacking my infantry. Most of my the infantry that I had with just gold shield, gold attack on has long since routed and gone. But remember, the infantry that I've got left here, this is an old army, I've all got an experience stripe on. So I think they're all going to be quite good at holding there against enemy attack. Right, see that Scipii cavalry coming in, exhausted or very tired, and bang as that cavalry hits. But remember, they're exhausted, very tired, so their charge bonus will be down, their morale will be down, and their fighting efficiency will be extremely low. And that was a nice cavalry hit there, but it wouldn't be anything near as close to a fresh or warmed up cavalry units there. If you notice, I moved my general forward there just to support that particular flank of my units there. But as you can see here, I've done as I said, I've done the extension of Lee's formation there. Let's just pause the game for a second. So you can see a lot of enemy troops are attacking. Can you see those long pikes of the Macedons there, and the Brutii troops trying to fight their way down those pikes to kill the men on the other end? That's why we talk about Rome generals don't really usually like to use their men to attack pikes head on there. You can see that Brutii general is trying to make inroads into those Macedon pikemen, but was being repulsed by the length of those pikemen there. Right, can you see here, Lee no longer needs those units that were in behind my SBQR unit, as I formed an extension, so he can now move those units out to support my infantry. And you notice there, he's moved those pike units out and is now integrated with my infantry there. So his pikemen now integrated with my infantry is great, because that will stop any head-on cavalry attack, because obviously those pikemen there will kill the cavalry quite quick. So as you can see there, that was a nice move, a nice supporting move there by Lee to move his pike units out there to help my infantry. So there you can see now my infantry has become part of Lee's formation by moving those pike units out. So that's an unusual defensive formation to see, made up of both pikemen and Roman units there, like kind of, as I say, an extension. You can see Earth is moving his fully upgraded cavalry. Now remember, those fully upgraded cavalry are extremely battle depleted, but because they're fully upgraded they can still do a lot of damage there. But if you notice here, the enemy infantry are attacking Lee's pikemen, as well as you see Crypto's Scipio infantry aggressively attacking my infantry. But can you see with Lee's Mastodon pikemen there, those pikes are sticking out forward in front of my infantry, so they're doing a lot of damage to the enemy infantry, and those enemy infantry aren't really engaged with my infantry at the moment. So I've got fresh infantry integrated with those pikemen. As you can see, there's an overall view of our defensive position there. If you notice here, Lee is doing a lot of micromanagement with his pikes, shrinking his perimeter of that formation there. If you notice, there's some SBQR cavalry, Scipii cavalry charging, and bang, went into the flank of that Macedon unit. That was a nice strategic hit there by Crypto. But as you can see, by Lee shrinking the perimeter of his formation there, you can keep those pike formations thick. And that's what you need to do. You don't want to let those pike formations go thin, because that's where the enemy could break through. Let's say there's a general view. If you notice, I've got my general facing that Brutii cavalry, because if that Brutii cavalry hits, I've got my general there to support the SBQR unit in front of me. Right, you can see another Scipii unit attacking my unit there, and another couple of Scipii cavalry charging in there. But there's a general overview of what's happening at the moment. You can see Earth up in the top of the picture there, attacking enemy troops with his cavalry, some of his cavalry units there. But in general here, you can see that Lee's formation is doing very good there, holding against the enemy troops. And as you can see, they're trying to pressure my SBQR troops, but as Lee has integrated his pike units with my SBQR units there, it's a really good combination of Macedon and Rome troops that they're facing. Okay, some of Earth's units have just been routed there by the Brutii cavalry, but I noticed that he's still got his general and 3 cavalry units left over there on the right flank, which I'm sure he'll make the most of. As you can see, they're extremely battle depleted, but I'm sure he'll make the most of those during the course of the battle. Okay, you can see here, let's say the enemy are being extremely aggressive here in the way they're attacking our defensive formation. All the time here I'm looking for where our perimeter could be breached. And if you notice here, can you see at the bottom of the formation there, it looks like they're under a bit of pressure. But hopefully it should be okay. You can see, as I say, with Lee's micromanagement here, he's got a couple of pike units in the centre of his formation that he can move to pressure points if he needs to. It's always good, if you're going to form a defensive position, up to try and keep a couple of units in the middle that you can move to pressurise points of your perimeter when you need to. As you can see here, the enemy really trying to push in there. But as I say, the bottom of our formation there looks a little bit exposed there. If you can see here, enemy Brutii and Scipio units attacking my units there. And if you notice, Lee's taking another pike unit up there to integrate in with my units there to face that attack. But if you notice here, can you see there's one particular pike unit at the bottom of our formation that's starting to thin out a bit. See, 42 men. Can you see that unit there? It's starting to thin out. Let's just pause the game for a second. So if we look here, you can see that unit there has got 43 men in, and it's tired unit as well. Now that could be where a breach could be formed. If the enemy pushing hard enough there, that could be a breach in our formation. Now when you're in a defensive formation, you must always keep an eye on all your units to see if you've got any units that are really starting to get battle depleted and could break. And very much there, it looks like the enemy could break through there and then pour in through that breach. So we need to watch that particular part of the formation. See, they're down to 35 men, 34, 33, and their morale, remember, Macedon morale is not very good, and with losing that many men, they could break at any time. If you notice there, can you see how our formation is really thinning out there in that particular part of the battlefield? And as you can see, Lee at the moment has used up his units that he had in the centre there to take them off to other parts of the perimeter. So if the enemy breaks through there, we've basically got nothing to throw in there to plug the breach. You can see the enemy can see the breach there. Can you see how they're starting to pour troops forward to attack the potential breach? Really pushing through. Right, if you notice my SBQR general, can you notice I'm moving my SBQR general down to the breach? Okay, I've got that general unit on guard mode, and I'm going to move it down there, and I'm going to try and hold the breach, because if you notice there, a Scipio unit has actually broken into our formation. Okay, can you notice there? So I'm moving my general unit forward there to try and plug that breach. I noticed that Lee has got a pike unit there with 60 men, and he may well move that forward as well to try and plug the breach. But as it stands at the moment, our perimeter has been broken, and the enemy are starting to try and break that the formation up there. As you can see, two of the Mastodon units there has just been routed. Just pause again for a second. So those two battle damaged Mastodon units have now been broken, and the enemy could now pour in. But if you notice, Lee is taking out that one pike unit, and I've moved my general unit forward there to try and plug that breach. But it's an extremely serious breach there, and if the enemy poured in, then probably the formation would start to rout. They would probably chain route there after the enemy start pouring. Can you see Lee's turning units here that was on the flank there in forward there to face the enemy? I noticed one of the enemy Scipio units has just been routed there by doing that particular thing with his formation. And if you notice there, I'm moving my general forward there just to try and hold that breach. As you can see here, a lot of the enemy troops have now been routed around our perimeter. And what I'm looking to do now is turn defense into attack. Let's just pause again for a second. So if you notice, I'm going to run out from the formation now with my SBQR troops and look to do an attack. Start rolling the enemy up that are engaged with my allies' Macedon units. So remember, some stage of the battle, if you form a defensive box up and they don't break that box, then sometime you've got to turn defense into attack. If you notice, I'm taking my SBQR troops around the flank there and looking to attack the rear of the enemy engaged troops that would be tired. And notice how many are starting to rout just through my units hitting them. If you notice, there's a large force of Gladius is Brutii infantry moving over to attack my attacking troops there. He'll try and counter my attack, and if you notice there, he's moving his troops in to attack my SBQR infantry. So now it's pretty dangerous there as they're attacking. My guess is that Lee will now use his Macedon troops to move forward with his pike units to try and engage the enemy, as well as my SBQR units are attacking as well there. If you notice, there seems to be only the enemy Brutii troops that are left. Now we seem to have routed the rest. If you notice there, my infantry is integrated with the Macedon infantry once again in fighting those enemy Brutii troops. If you notice, I'm moving my general over as well. If you notice, Lee's general and my general are both still alive, so we're giving a good morale bonus to our troops here. And it wouldn't surprise me if those Brutii infantry started to rout soon with the pressure of both Macedon pikemen and my SBQR troops. Right, see that Brutii cavalry charging in, and bang as that cavalry hits. But once again, because we've got Macedon pikemen there, they will neutralise any cavalry attack. And I say, whenever you form a defensive box, as long as that box is not broken, then eventually you will have to turn defense into attack. And that's exactly what we're doing there. You can see Lee moving forward with his pikemen there. Let's say these pikemen remind me of steamrollers. They move really slowly, but they tend to go over everything in front of them. You can see that Brutii cavalry trying to charge into my general, but I've got one of Lee's pike units there just neutralising that cavalry attack, and we've routed all those Brutii cavalry. And we're just pushing forward now with my infantry and Macedon pikemen there into, I think it's just a Brutii general that's left now. Pushing forward there. As I say, that defensive formation we formed, I think that was the right time to form that defensive box in the course of the battle there. That defensive formation, and I think it seems to have worked out well for our team there. See, Gladius' general there now has been engulfed by our troops. His morale will be dropping there. As you can see, Earth's cavalry chasing down routers. Just pause the game for a second. Just want to show you the extent of the battle here. This has been a large battle over a large area here. You can see the kills start over here. As we move forward there, you can see like the circle of death there, if you see what I mean. You can see where a lot of the enemy were killed around the circle, the defensive circle, but you can also see where they broke in. You can see where they broke in through that breach in our perimeter. But as you can see, we're moving forward, and you can see over here on the right flank, you can see here where Steve fought valiantly there, but got taken out by the double team of the green and the blue that were attacking him there, and that's where I lost all my cavalry as well. So you see our team has managed to go on and win this battle.
Be praised! The enemy general is dead.
They say we turned defence into attack there, and I thought it was a good example for newer players to roam Total War.
Our soldiers have done
there,
well.
and we're just finishing off the last of the enemy troops. Right, the first thing I'd like to say is it says average victory there, but I thought that should have been more of a close victory myself. When you watch the action, the battle and the situation of both teams there, I thought that should have been a close battle, so he must have just scraped into average. Just like to draw your attention to Earthstarring. Remember, we looked at his army, only 8 infantry, 6 fully upgraded cavalry, and I think it was 6 archers, 1,919 kills. I wonder when he looked at his army if he thought he would get that many kills, and really great kills for Brotherhood member Crypto and Gladius. Look at the kills they got. I think they got the 2nd and 3rd highest kills in the game, so really well done to them. I think Schemer and Aurelius probably didn't get the kills that they wanted, but well played to them as well. So just to say, really well played to Crypto, Gladius, Schemer and Aurelius. Great Brotherhood team there, but also really well played to Lee, Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks and Brotherhood member Earth. Really well played, guys. I thought that was a great battle, and this is a Friday bonus battle which I hope you've enjoyed. Please leave a comment if you like, and bye for now.